We all know everybody over the past few years has been going 0 RBs, 0 RBs, 0 RBs. Some people have been claiming, no, you want to go with an anchor running back. No, you want to go double anchor. I'm going to dive into every running back draft strategy. I'm going to show you the real numbers of what's worked over the past few years. And we're going to be getting in real fantasy football drafts in this video to show you exactly how to implement these strategies in your own drafts this season. Now, first thing we need to describe is going to be the chart that you're going to be looking at because you really need to understand this. We're going to look at a zillion of them. This is coming from Rotoviz. This is the Underdog Roster Construction Explorer. And if you are looking at the far left column, that is the total amount of running backs that you drafted on your underdog team over the past 3 seasons. So if a team drafted only 4 total RBs in this first chart, which they selected a running back in round 1 of their fantasy football draft, if they selected only 4 total running backs, they had a 14.6% chance to make it to the playoffs. They had a 1.47% chance to make it to the semis, and they had a 0.08% chance to make it to the finals of that tournament. And if you look at the row below, that's if they drafted 5 running backs on their team. If you look at the row below that, that's if they drafted 6. If you look at the row below that, that's if they drafted 7. So this gives you a great indication of if you drafted a running back in round 1, you're probably not wanting to draft 7 RBs, and more likely than not, you're going to be drafting 5 to 6 running backs. Now, I will tell you right now that really every time we're going to be looking at this chart, you want to be looking at drafting 5 to 6 running backs almost regardless. There'll be some very rare instances, which we talk about later on, that maybe that changes. But the main thing that I personally am going to be looking at will be the playoff rate, the semifinals rate, and the finals rate. So if you drafted a running back in round 1, you had about a 15.9 or a 15.5% chance to make it to the playoffs. You had about a 1.58 to 1.69% chance to make it to the semis, and you had a 0.09% chance to make it to the finals. Obviously, Rotoviz does a job for us where you can kind of see if it's bright green, pretty damn good. If it's red, pretty bad. So your advance rates to the playoffs, historically speaking, if you go with the running back in round 1, has been poor, but your performance in the fantasy football playoffs has been pretty good. So if we go down to you waiting to select your first running back in round 2, we've seen that your expected rate to make it to the playoffs is a little bit higher, but your expected rate to make it to the semis and finals will be a little bit lower. If you wait to select a running back until round 3, here your expected rate for the playoffs is even a little bit higher, but your expected rate for the semis is lower. So it's very, very interesting to see that. I mean, maybe it raises your floor but lowers your ceiling, but things kind of change as we get a little bit further on. If you're looking at running back 1 being selected in round 4, here you have extremely high rates across the board. I mean, you're almost making it to the playoffs in 20% of these underdog drafts. The semis is up at 1.37 and 1.4. That's as high as the teams that selected an RB in round 1. And the finals rates are incredibly high as well. Running back selected in round 5, if that's your RB1, right? You don't select a running back through the first 4 rounds. You wait till round 5. Pretty poor numbers across the board. You wait till round 6, pretty poor numbers across the board. Round 7, you actually have great numbers. I mean, a freaking quarter of these teams make it to the playoffs. 2% make it to the semis. You can say the same thing about round 8. If you waited till round 7, round 8 to select your first running back in these underdog drafts, you have been crushing over the past 3 years. Now, if you're waiting until after round 8, here you're going to see a pretty big fall off. And this is where it is the only time I think it makes sense to go through and decide to select 7 running backs. If you wait till rounds 8 or beyond to take your first RB in these underdog tournaments, I'm fine with you selecting 7. The sample size that we're looking at is incredibly small. But, I mean, you do have the highest finals rate among any of these builds at 0.25% for teams that decided to wait until after round 8 for their first RB, but took a total of 7 of those guys. But honestly, that data is not nearly as important as what else we're about to look at. We can take a step back because if we're looking at round by round, it gets a little murky where the data kind of shows, okay, you either want to be drafting your RB1 in round 1, or you probably want to be waiting for quite some time, right? So it goes to show that historically speaking, either the anchor RB approach, the hero RB, whatever you want to call it, or the zero RB approach has worked over the past 3 years. But to zoom out and really try to figure this, if you select your RB1 before round 3, so you select your RB1 in either rounds 1 or round 2, you have very poor playoff rates across the board. Your semifinal rates are okay. Your finals rates are okay. But if you did go with that 0 RB approach, your playoff rates are higher. Your semifinals rates are higher. Your finals rates are higher. If you select your running back 1 after round 5, you were crushing it. But what I found is what's even more predictive than where you select your first running back in your draft is going to be where you select your second. If you select 2 running backs historically over the past 3 years before round 4, so you're going running back round 1, running back round 2, you're going running back round 1, running back round 3, or running back round 2, running back round 3, you have the worst playoff rates you could ever imagine. Your semifinal rates are okay. Your final rates are garbage. If you select 2 running backs within the first 3 rounds, this is where it actually makes sense for you to potentially consider a 4 running back build in going hyper fragile and not building out the 5th, not building out the 6th, because you're going to need the slot for the wide receivers later on. Now, on the opposite end, if you waited to select your second running back until after round 7, so maybe you go RB1 in round 1, then you go RB2 in round 8, you're seeing, okay, the finals rates are incredibly high. The semifinals rates are incredibly high. Now, with these builds, of course, you're not wanting to select only 4 running backs. You're for sure needing to get at least 5, for sure needing to get at least 6. But it does go to show that consistently taking running backs early in these underdog drafts has been a poor strategy. Now, what you see a lot of times in these underdog drafts is you see people come out and go, okay, I shouldn't take running backs early, so let me draft 5, 6 wide receivers in a row to start the draft. That is pretty damn bad as well. But what we can actually do is we can combine a couple of these different measures. What I wanted to find is the optimal strategy if you decided to go with a hero RB approach, or the optimal strategy if you decided to go with the 0 RB approach. So we already saw in a vacuum, 0 RB has been better on Underdog. Moving beyond and figuring out how you actually capture the upside of a 0 RB team is you need to take a top end quarterback and you need to take a top end tight end. If you were looking at the teams that waited until after round 7 to select their second running back, but took a quarterback before round 7, you have a finals rate that is about the same as just waiting to select your RB2 after round 7, but you have a higher playoff rate and you have a higher semifinals rate as well. So if you are going 0 RB, it makes sense. You can afford to go get the elite level quarterback. And if we take this one step further, what's also very interesting is if you go 0 RB, you can afford to get yourself the elite level tight end as well. If we are looking at this construction, a running back 2 selected after round 7, a QB1 selected before round 7, and a tight end 1 selected before round 7 as well. These are about the best numbers you are going to find from a construction perspective. I'm going to show you how to build with this team a little bit later on. I mean, the finals rates here, doesn't matter if you take 5, 6, 7 running backs, all, 0.10% or higher. Now, if you go through and if you look at a similar build, you select your RB1 before round 3. So you select your RB1 in either rounds 1 or 2. In a vacuum, the numbers look pretty bad. The advance rates for the playoffs are pretty damn low. However, if we go through and look at if you stack that elite quarterback and that elite tight end as well, the numbers are phenomenal, just like the 0 RB approach. So what was very interesting in searching through all of this is you can take the elite level running back at the top. You can go 0 RB, really whatever you're deciding. But more times than not, when we're in rounds 4, 5, 6, it is going to serve you better to go wide receiver or to go with an elite level quarterback. Preferably the elite level quarterback and an elite level tight end if you can get one as well. Now, one other note that I want to have for these hero RB teams is if you decide to select your RB1 in round 1, you need to be slamming wide receivers afterwards. If you look at teams that selected their RB1 in round 1, but also selected their wide receiver 5 before round 8, you have over a 2% chance of making the semis. which let me go through and scroll through this. I believe that 2% chance of making the semis is higher than what we have seen from any of these other constructions through this entire video. And yeah, looking at it, it is. This is, historically speaking, over the past 3 years, by far and away the best strategy on Underdog has been taking your RB1 round one, taking Christian McCaffrey, this year taking Breece Hall, taking a Bijan Robinson, and then just immediately slamming wide receivers in the next 5-6 rounds. So I'm going to fire up some Underdog drafts right now. I'm going to show you exactly how to implement these strategies. And hopefully we can figure out what works for a 0 RB build and what works for a hero RB build. Okay, we are going to be in an Underdog Fantasy draft at pick 6. Now, pick 6 is very interesting because I don't know if this is going to be the hero RB build or the 0 RB build just yet. We are going to see what falls to us. Now, my only concern is if we go with running back round one with like Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, if all of a sudden a running back like Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley falls to us in round 2, it would be very difficult to go running back out the gate. So I do like going wide receiver round 1 if we are at this point of the draft. That way it gives us the option to go RB in round 2 for the hero RB build. But you're going to see as we go through and talk about this, especially in the early rounds, I don't know yet if we're going to be showing you the 0 RB strategy or the hero RB strategy, just because we are wanting to stay flexible for what the draft gives us. We do know, however, if we take that running back in either round 1 or round 2, we will need 5 wide receivers through the first 8 rounds. So let's stay flexible. Let's see what the draft board gives us. Most likely it's going to be someone like Jamar Chase or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like I said, we do really want to be taking that wide receiver round 1. And we are going to get Jamar Chase here round 1, ladies and gentlemen. So more likely than not, unless we get Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor falling to us in round 2, this will be a team that we decide to go with that 0 RB approach. And if we decide to go down that road, we're looking for the elite level quarterback and the elite level tight end if we can swing it. Okay, Taylor and Barkley both off the board. So knowing what I know about Underdog drafts, we are more likely than not going to be looking at a wide receiver here at pick 19. I don't have any massive personal preferences when it comes to this group of guys. I will go ahead, take Davante Adams. If you look at how ADPs line up, I think there are going to be fewer Davante Adams, Jamar Chase teams than there will be Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel teams. And that's a side note about this overall tournament. Obviously, we need to be considering the other teams that will be drafted. And yeah, somehow you haven't seen us draft Underdog teams before. I'm doing this every single night in the live stream. I've done this every single night in the live stream for freaking years. By far and away, my favorite place to draft. I mean, it's best ball, so there's no time commitment during the year. So I draft hundreds of teams every offseason. That's how we won $150,000 on Underdog 2 years ago. And yeah, if you want to opt in and drive with us, you can find that link in the description, in the comment section. If you use code FLOCK, you're going to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $250 on a new account. Plus, you will get our 2024 fantasy football rankings. Plus, you're going to get hooked up with a special NBA pick'em, something like Luka Doncic, more than less than half a total point, depending on whatever night that you sign up. And then also, Underdog is available in damn near every state. This is even an outdated map because it is even available in Michigan now for anybody wanting to hop in. But after we take Davante Adams, this is setting up, like we said previously, to be that 0 RB build. It will be interesting if all of a sudden we get like Kyron Williams falling to us at 30. It maybe, I don't know, maybe it happens. Derrick Henry here goes 22. Okay, we are about to be on the clock yet again. What's very interesting here is, never mind. I thought we were going to get the option to take Sam Laporta. Like we said previously, it does make a lot of sense to take the elite level tight end, to take the elite level quarterback on a 0 RB approach. But instead, we are just going to go ahead. We will take Stephon Diggs here at pick 30. I mean, I think that you can make an argument Diggs, the wide receiver one in Houston, over Collins. So yeah, I'm happy to get him here. And this gives us the option to go with that elite quarterback or the elite tight end in rounds 4 and 5. It looks like we are not getting any shot at an elite level tight end with McBride, Kelsey, and Kincaid all going here in round 3. Now, we do have the option for the elite level quarterback build with CJ Stroud at pick 54. We also could go Lamar 43 or maybe see if Mahomes makes it back to us. The issue is if we decide to pass on Stroud, that team there at 2 that has Nico Collins, more likely than not will take CJ Stroud there at either 47 or pick 50. So it's interesting. What I think we're going to do instead is we are going to set ourselves up with the option to go with the double stack for Joe Burrow. We will take T. Higgins here at pick 43. And then I think this still gives us the optionality if we wanted to go with the elite level quarterback. We can see if either Lamar, Stroud, or Mahomes make it to us at 54. And if we whiff on all those guys, we should be in a pretty good spot to get Burrow in round 7 or round 8. Okay, the team at 2 decides to pass on Nico Collins, CJ Stroud stack. So looks like we will get the elite level quarterback making it to us here at pick 54. I'll say as a quick side note, I know this has nothing to do with my team, but if I was there at 1 or 2, I would have for sure gone like Lamar and Mark Andrews. So it is interesting to see that these quarterbacks are falling here. Now the question is, would we rather go with an unstacked Lamar with the rushing upside, or would we rather go with the stacked Stroud? Because there will be a lot of other teams that get CJ Stroud here at pick 54 to pair up with Diggs. But the amount of teams that will get Lamar here at 54 would be slim. But Lamar goes, so we don't even get that option. Instead, we are just going to go ahead. We will take CJ Stroud at 54 to pair up with Diggs. Like we said, with these 0 RB teams, you are for sure wanting to go ahead and get the elite level quarterback. It just comes down to what the price is, if they correlate with your team. And I would like to get an elite level tight end as well. But running back, once we go through the first 5-6 rounds, for sure is also in play for us with these 0 RB teams. But my thought process right now is honestly probably to slam our first running back in round 8 if we really want to push it. Okay, we are coming back up on the clock here. We do have a couple different options. If we wanted to go with that tight end, as we were mentioning previously, trying to grab a quarterback and a tight end before round 7 with these 0 RB builds, George Kittle would have been in play. It looks like Kittle goes off the board at 65, so he's no longer going to be an option for us. So instead, we are going to make a pivot. We are going to take Xavier Worthy, hook 'em horns at wide receiver. And yeah, I mean, for sure, on the way back around, we could also be looking at Joe Burrow for these underdog drafts, going with the bully quarterback and pairing up Burrow with Chase as well as Higgins. Also, of course, with these 0 RB teams, it is nice to see like this run of wide receivers happening at the end of round 6, right? I mean, at this point, we're kind of wanting to see receivers go off the board. Okay, here we have a decision. We can take Burrow and get the double stack with Chase and Higgins, which I think makes a ton of sense. A lot of times, if you're looking at quarterbacks like Burrow, Tua, Cousins, since the target tree is so concentrated between their top pass catchers and they're not going to run the ball, you won't see too many teams take them unstacked, and you can try to push them and get them beyond ADP. So I think you make an argument maybe to go Ramondre, then Burrow in the next round, but we'll play it safe. We're just going to go ahead, go Joe Burrow, get our double stack there with the receivers. And then obviously now at this point, we are going to be slamming running backs. And yeah, I think it would have made a lot more sense, and it would have been better if we could have grabbed that elite level tight ends with this team instead of going with the bully QB. But sadly, we just don't get an opportunity to go within elite level tight ends here inside the top 7 rounds. Whereas Kittle goes before us at 67. We want to take Stroud over Andrews there at 54. And then Kincaid, Kelsey, McBride all go before ADP where we don't get the option. So I think pretty standard 0 RB build here. Like I said, the data shows that you would rather grab the elite level tight ends where you can, but sadly, we just didn't have the option in this one. But from here on out, the main thing that we are looking at is slamming running back, running back, running back. And I mean, if we were to wait a little bit longer, you can make an argument to go 7 guys, but we're most likely only going to go 6. We are coming back on the clock. Interesting to see Kyler fall this far. Obviously, it'd be nice for us if Kyler went beforehand. We are most likely going to be taking running back here. Our top RB options are Jalen Warren, Zach Moss, Tony Pollard, James Conner. You can make an argument, Mason, you're already all in on this Bengals offense. Why didn't you go ahead and take Zach Moss? I kind of prefer Jalen Warren over Moss myself, but we're just going to see what happens and what falls to us at 91. Yeah, we are going to go Jalen Warren. I think we're probably going to end up on the way back around with another running back in this tier of guys here. We're going to be looking at someone like Moss, Pollard, Connor, Mostert, Benson, Javonte, and we're going to be trying to stack up as many of those running backs as we possibly can, where it's hard to project them out right now, so you are getting them at a discount. There's a wide range of outcomes with these guys, but ultimately, we kind of want to be chasing these running backs with that wide range of outcomes. Okay, it looks like we are getting some more of these running backs making it to us, just like we were talking about previously. I don't necessarily have a super strong reason to go with any one of these guys over the other from a construction perspective. I really do think it just kind of comes down to your personal preference. It is interesting to see Jordan Love fall this far, though, if we wanted to point that out. And then specifically because we wait till round 8 to grab our first RB, I'm not too inclined to go Brock Bowers here. I really think that we just want to kind of be hammering in the running back position. Yeah, we are on the clock. We are going to go ahead. We are just going to be taking James Conner here, ladies and gentlemen. And now we are sitting with the team that at wide receiver, we have Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Xavier Worthy. Quarterback, we have Stroud stacked up with Diggs. We have Burrow double stacked with Chase and Higgins. And obviously, we're done drafting quarterback. But right now, we are sitting at running back with the combination of Jalen Warren, James Conner. And we're most likely, to be honest with you, going to slam another running back on the way back around. But we'll just see who falls because there is an outside chance that the value lies at either tight end or wide receiver. Okay, so we have some running backs off the board. So at this point, really what we are looking for, if we can get them, will be Brian Robinson Jr. here at 115. I think that would be a phenomenal get for this team at RB3. And he goes at pick 113. So now we're put in a little bit of a difficult spot. Quarterback clearly not in play for us. We are just looking running back, wide receiver, tight ends. I'm not a massive Gus Edwards guy. Obviously looks to be the RB1 at a very good rush first offense. But we are probably going to end up getting stuck taking Edwards. I'm not a big fan of the Dobbs, Shaheed Price. We already have our 5 receivers, and there are no tight ends in this range that could potentially make sense for our team. So we're going to go ahead. We'll take Gus Edwards here, RB3 for us, and sit up prepared that he finds some touchdown upside. Okay, we're going to move this back over, and we are still continuing to just go with running back, wide receiver, tight end, depending on whatever the value falls. I wouldn't mind at all mixing in some TJ Hawkinson or Dalton Schultz here, considering the fact that we have Stroud. I think Chase Brown could make some sense as well. I think plan A will be Chase Brown. Plan B will be Dalton Schultz. Plan C, most likely, Hawkinson. So Chase Brown goes. At this point, I think we're just going to go ahead. We will take Dalton Schultz, get the double stack with CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs. And like we said, I mean, with these 0 RB approaches, more likely than not, we are trying to get that tight end in the first 7 rounds. Sometimes it'll happen. Sometimes it won't. This draft, it didn't. But I'm fine with Schultz for where we got him. Okay, we are about to be up again, and we actually have some very interesting running backs that we can be looking at. These guys like Ford and Charbonnet that should have a role from a week-to-week perspective, but obviously the upside if the starter were to go down in front of them. I mean, that's a big reason people go through and they draft 0 RB is just given the fact that, well, maybe you project out Charbonnet, say, to have 128 points with his projection as it stands in May. Obviously, if Kenneth Walker were to go down, then all of a sudden, for weeks 15, 16, 17, you could easily have an RB1 that you drafted here in round 12. So we're going to go ahead. We will take Zach Charbonnet as our RB4, continuing to try to stack these players. They're going to have a week-to-week role with upside for more if their situation were to change. Now we're for sure at the point where we can pivot back over to wide receiver, right? Like we're not necessarily drafting for a singular position here. We are just trying to take the value for what makes sense for this roster. Obviously, with that in mind, we can't take quarterback, but a running back, wide receiver, tight end, pretty much all in play now. And once Marshawn Lloyd goes off the board, I think we're a little more likely to go receiver than we are running back. Okay, we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Sticky Ricky, Slicky Ricky, whatever you want to call him. Now, obviously, the depth chart right now in San Francisco shows that this is going to be a wide receiver that has absolutely no path to really touch the field or make a difference. But one, you could see an injury. And two, more importantly, it's not like Debo and or Ayuk are guaranteed to be on this roster this next season. there is that outside chance that you end up getting one of these players moved. And if that were to occur, I think that Ricky could skyrocket being a round 1 pick from Shanahan now that we're getting after Troy Franklin, who went round 4 in the NFL draft this year, and what should be a worse offense. Okay, we are coming back up. Very interesting spot to be in. Kind of feel good about taking the receiver in the last round, considering the fact that there really aren't any receivers that are interesting here at 163. We could definitely go tight end. The issue is we're going to have to take 3 tight ends almost regardless. So typically I'm wanting to wait a little bit longer. I really do like the idea of going Algier and Antonio Gibson. I mean, these running backs that should project out to have roles from week to week perspective and upside for more if the starter were to go down. And clearly we still need to be slamming running backs where we can. So we'll see who ends up falling. Benson is in play for us as well. But like I said, we're going to have to take 3 tight ends regardless. I think we are going to go ahead and take Algier. Obviously, the expectation is Bijan's the 3-down back this next year. This is a running back that last year had over 200 touches, though. The year prior had over 200 touches. Clearly, if Bijan were to go down, Algier does step in immediately as the guy. So we'll take him here 163 for a 0 RB build where we need upside for weeks 15, 16, 17. Not wishing an injury in Bijan at all, but obviously it is in the range of outcomes. Okay, we're going to swing this back around, and we may be going with another running back here in Antonio Gibson. I think because we went with these RBs consecutively starting in round 8, we're most likely only going to draft 6. I don't think this can be a 7 RB approach. So if Gibson makes it to us, we will take Antonio Gibson 174, but the team before us only has 2 running backs. They only have Travis Etienne and Nick Chubb, so yeah, looks like the odds of Gibson making it are slim. And yeah, Gibson already goes 172. Very interesting to see this team with only Etienne and Chubb, what they decide to do. So we're most likely going to be pivoting over to a tight end with Cade Otton at this point. Yeah, we're going to go Otton, pair him up next to Schultz. And we're probably going to end this here. I'm going to take one more running back. It's going to be a 6 running back build. Going to be a 3 tight end build. I mean, you probably already get the strategy of everything, but of course, appreciate you. Really hope we were able to help you out in this video. And of course, if you have not done so already, hit that like, subscribe. And if you want to hop in an Underdog drive with us tonight, the day after, we are drafting every single night, Underdog Fantasy. You can find that link in the description, in the comment section. Code FLOCK will get you hooked up with a 50% deposit bonus up to $250, plus our 2024 fantasy football rankings, plus a special pick'em. And like we said, Underdog's available in damn near every state, so you can hop in wherever. But thank you again. Appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you out with the live stream later tonight.